In mid-December 2025, South Korea quietly crossed an important threshold in its military posture. The Korean Tactical Surface-to-Surface Missile, better known as KTSSM, or UR, was officially deployed into operational service under the Army Strategic Missile Command in Wonju. This was not a technology demonstration, nor a future promise. It was a declaration that a weapon designed for one very specific moment in a future conflict had moved from concept to reality. That moment is the first few hours of a war on the Korean Peninsula. For decades, South Korea's most acute conventional vulnerability has not been ballistic missiles or even nuclear threats, but the sheer mass of long-range artillery and multiple rocket launchers positioned north of the Demilitarized Zone. These systems, many of them hidden in hardened shelters, tunnels, and mountain revetments, are optimized to fire large volumes of ordnance toward the Seoul metropolitan area with minimal warning. In any opening phase of conflict, this artillery threat represents not only a military challenge, but a societal one, combining physical destruction with psychological shock. KTSSM exists because traditional answers to this problem have always carried limitations. Counter-battery artillery requires time to detect, classify, and respond. Air power, while flexible and precise, is constrained by air defense threats, weather, sortie generation, and political risk during the opening moments of escalation. Strategic missiles, such as the Hanmu series, are optimized for deep, high-value targets rather than the dense tactical artillery belt close to the demilitarized zone. What South Korea lacked was a weapon designed specifically to close this gap between detection and neutralization in the earliest phase of conflict. The December 2025 deployment announcement was therefore significant not because of dramatic imagery or rhetoric, but because it marked the operationalization of a concept that has been under development since the Yeonpyeong Island shelling more than a decade earlier. KTSSM was conceived as a counter-artillery strike system, optimized for rapid response, high accuracy, and effectiveness against hardened and semi-buried targets. South Korean defense authorities emphasized that the system was now ready to perform its intended mission, rather than remaining a theoretical deterrent. At its core, KTSSM is designed to attack what North Korean doctrine values most in the opening phase of war: survivable, concealed firepower. Many artillery and rocket units are positioned in caves or reinforced bunkers that allow them to fire and then retreat back into cover. Neutralizing these targets requires more than area bombardment. It requires precision, penetration, and timing. KTSSM addresses this by combining guided accuracy with a warhead concept tailored to defeat protected positions, allowing South Korean forces to strike firing sites rather than simply suppress them. This capability alters the tactical equation in subtle but important ways. Instead of relying solely on prolonged counter-battery duels or airstrikes that carry escalation risks, South Korea gains a land-based precision option that can be employed rapidly once hostile fire is detected. In practical terms, this means the decision cycle between detection and engagement can be compressed. The faster that cycle becomes, the less time opposing artillery units have to inflict damage or relocate. For the South Korean public, this matters because the artillery threat is measured not in abstract military terms, but in minutes. In many scenarios, the difference between a rapid and a delayed response can translate directly into civilian casualties and infrastructure damage. By fielding KTSSM, Seoul signals that it is prioritizing the mitigation of that immediate danger rather than focusing exclusively on longer-range or more symbolic capabilities. Importantly, KTSSM does not replace other elements of South Korea's deterrence architecture. It complements them. Strategic missiles provide deep strike options. Air power offers flexibility and follow-on effects. Missile defense systems aim to blunt retaliation. KTSSM occupies the tactical middle ground, addressing a problem that none of those systems can solve efficiently on their own. This layered approach reflects a mature understanding of escalation management, where different tools are matched to different phases and intensities of conflict. Recent reporting from defense authorities has also indicated that the current deployed version of KTSSM is not the end of the story. Development work continues on improved variants intended to extend range, enhance penetration, and increase survivability against countermeasures, with timelines discussed in the context of the later 2020s. While specifics remain limited, the implication is clear. South Korea views this system as a long-term component of its force structure rather than a one-off solution. From a strategic perspective, the deployment of KTSSM sends a message not only to Pyongyang, but also to regional observers. It demonstrates that South Korea's defense planning is increasingly focused on credible, indigenous solutions to its most immediate threats. Rather than relying exclusively on allied capabilities or imported systems, Seoul is investing in tailored responses that reflect the unique geography and threat environment of the peninsula. This does not mean that KTSSM makes war more likely. In fact, the opposite argument is more persuasive. A deterrent becomes stronger when it is perceived as usable and effective, rather than catastrophic and escalatory. By improving its ability to rapidly neutralize artillery threats, South Korea reduces the incentive for an adversary to believe that a limited barrage could achieve political or psychological gains without triggering overwhelming retaliation. In that sense, KTSM contributes to stability by raising the costs and lowering the potential rewards of initiating hostilities. There are, of course, limits. No system can guarantee the elimination of all artillery threats, especially against an opponent that emphasizes redundancy, mobility, and deception. North Korea is likely to respond by dispersing assets further, increasing the use of decoys, and investing in counter-detection measures. This is the nature of military competition. Yet even in that dynamic, KTSSM shifts the balance by forcing adaptation rather than allowing reliance on established assumptions. For South Korean audiences, the significance of KTSSM lies less in its technical specifications and more in what it represents. It is a weapon designed not for prestige or export headlines, but for a grim, practical scenario that planners hope will never occur. Its deployment acknowledges the reality of the threat while demonstrating that the state is investing in tools to protect its population during the most vulnerable phase of any conflict. Looking ahead, KTSSM is likely to become a reference point for future discussions about escalation control and early-phase conflict management on the peninsula. As additional layers such as advanced missile defense and improved surveillance are integrated, the system's value may increase further, becoming part of a tightly linked network rather than a standalone capability. In the end, KTSSM is not about winning wars quickly or decisively. It is about buying time, reducing damage, and preserving decision space during the most dangerous hours of a crisis. For South Korea, that is a strategic objective grounded in realism rather than rhetoric. The quiet deployment in December 2025 suggests that, in this case, substance mattered more than spectacle.